is emotional unavailability. Okay. So before we jump into that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. So tonight's show is being sponsored by ljsplendors.com. I don't know if you guys can see this strapless dress I have here. You can go to their site and get this dress. It is beautiful. It is full length. You guys, they have all the sizes and different colors. So go and check out ljsplendors.com and get your fit. So we're getting ready to jump into this topic. I know we've done some research and some self-searching. So Dr. JD, uh, if you want to, you can kind of tell our viewers who you are, what you do.
So as far as hold on, this is what I gotta do. I gotta come up close and personal to y'all. How y'all doing today? I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you, Elle, for allowing me to be on the show again. And it's a great gratitude to being on here. When this topic it came up, it spoke dear to my heart. I think of a lot of people that spend their time going through situations in their lives and they are trying to figure things out. But when they trying to figure things out, they come to a point trying to how do they address their emotions? And addressing your emotions can also get an effect of how you learn from each other and how you speak to each other and all that good things. So I just want to start off like that. This is amazing. I'm enjoying this already. Go ahead, I'm here.
All right. So we're going to discuss this topic, but I want us to start off with a general definition of emotional unavailability. Unless someone may be hearing this for the first time and learning of this for the first time. So I just want to give you guys like a short definition. And so emotional unavailability is when you're unable to make deep connections in different types of relationships. So it can be with your family or romantic relationships, even with your friends and things like that. And so it has different, I'll say, symptoms and traits that comes along with that. And a lot of times you don't even know that you're exhibiting those traits because it's common to you. And so depending on when you actually develop that emotional unavailability, it may be something that has been with you for a long time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah, and you could be dealing with it a long time. The reason why you don't say certain things because you could be emotionally unavailable because maybe because of your relationships, because you feel like if you said something, it will be out of order, or if you don't really tell your emotions or tell how you feel, it could become it because you feel like there would be a backlash to coming out by saying what you wanted to really say, because we go through different heartaches, different pains, and those different heartaches and pains does affect the way we function, how we deal it with people hand to hand. And so those are the things that really can hinder yourself or hinder someone else because I I know for the fact if we don't express ourselves, how do people know how to fix it? My thing was always how do I fix the problem? How do you make the relationship better? How do you make the circumstance better if you don't know how to fix the problem? And some things I don't want to go too fast, too far, but just the fact the communication is very huge about when you've been emotional unavailable. So those are some of the things that definitely that touches my heart that I can target on. I even say for my own self, I have dealt with that in the past. Not now. I'm too vocal now. So in the past, I may have ran into those things myself.
Yeah, and like you said, that the communication is a big factor when you are dealing with emotional unavailability, and it comes across different ways, and you'll see it in different forms. So the way that you're talking about emotional unavailability is generally dealing with an insecurity and not wanting to push the other person away because
Hmm.
in the past you had experiences where you didn't have the opportunity to speak what you wanted to say
Right.
and have people to accept what you're saying. And
Right.
so you have that fear of losing that attachment with someone else. So you do not speak up. And so that makes you kind of like a hermit, if you will. You kind of hide yourself and hide your feelings instead of being able to
Wow.
express yourself the way
Wow.
that you should.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
Right.
there's a different, like I said, different forms of emotional unavailability. One of them is really a long-term one. And so it's not something that getting into a relationship with someone else will really help you through. This is something that starts in your childhood. And so it deals with your attachment to your family members and your parents. So depending on how they loved you, it'll be the same way that you portray that love outward to other people. And so
Right.
that had a lot to do with, and I'm a psychology minor, so I know some of the terminologies, but that has to do with some of the different attachment styles. And so
Okay.
emotional unavailable people usually have what
Okay.
they call an insecure attachment. And
Yeah.
that is when you're used to having people love you sometimes. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So you don't
Wow.
you don't really have a secure attachment to anyone because you're concerned that they'll love you and then maybe they'll take that love away once they give
Wow.
it to you. And
Okay.
so a lot of times that is developed in childhood and
Wow.
parents don't even realize that they're doing that to their children. And then when they grow up and they try to have these relationships and they can't figure
Wow.
out why they can't get a healthy connection going, a lot of times it's because of what has transpired in their childhood dealing with
Wow.
insecure attachments. And so I just thought that was really interesting to see that connection there. When
Right.
people have insecure attachments,
Mm-hmm.
they fear losing someone else. And then you'll see a lot of with emotional unavailability, a lot of that is back behind fear, unless is someone maybe like a narcissist or something like that.
Wow.
It's just
Wow.
extreme because they definitely have emotional unavailability,
Right.
but it's just a different level. A lot of times when people are dealing with emotional unavailability, they don't know that they are dealing with that, and they just
Right.
see the effects show up in their relationships.
Wow.
Yeah,
And then when you sit there saying about a narcissist, narcissistic is it is crazy because if you've been dealing with narcissistic person or in their being and how they act and how they function, they sometimes I believe some of them don't even know how they're just functioning in that way. We know narcissistic is being antagonizing, being able to just not, you're wrong, I'm up, you're down, you're never right, in those certain situations. And if you find yourself dealing with that, that's why you be having emotional unavailability, because you're dealing with people that only see themselves. They don't see everybody else around them. They deal with their emotion, have these emotional issues that they deal with on a daily basis. And
yeah,
which is unfortunate that people deal with that, but that's how people go through their struggles and their problems, and how they don't know how to actually um, speak for themselves, because they're too scared to speak out.
yeah.
I hope I hit that on the head.
Yeah, but
Wow.
like, and getting back to the communication part of emotional unavailability and dealing with those type of individuals, like what I found, even in my personal experience and in research, is that a lot of times they are very nice people. They're very kind. However, you never really get to know the depths of that individual. So they do a lot of acts of kindness and things like that to
Right.
keep people drawn to them. And it's like a false connection that's there.
Woo.
Yeah, it's a false connection that's there. It's a
There you can say
perceived
it again. A
connection, but
false
it's not,
connection.
yeah, but it's not anything
Wow.
of depth. And anytime that you try to
Wow.
create anything of depth with this person, they begin to
Wow.
distance themselves, or what I would call self-sabotaging the relationships, right?
Wow, there it is.
Yeah,
There it is.
yeah.
Let's sit on that for a little bit.
The self-sabotage,
No, that's self sabotage. It's something else, ain't it?
it is. And the scary thing about it is that you don't even know that you're doing it. So it's not an intentional thing. It's like what I call the fright. What is it? The fight or flight
Uh-huh.
defenses. So it's like when you begin to see those connections forming, it's like you're either going to fight it or you're going to get out of there. You know, you're going to
Right.
fight to form that connection or you're going to run. And
Right.
so a lot of that has to do too with being able to trust the other person. You
Right.
know, and sometimes it
Wow.
doesn't have anything to do with the other person. They may have not done anything to show you that they're not trustworthy. It's
Right.
just that because you have not dealt with that emotional unavailability within yourself. So you automatically do not trust these people that you're trying to get love from and give love to.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah. And the thing with emotional unavailability is that you don't really have the capabilities to receive love and you don't
Mm,
have to give it either.
that's
So you
good.
can't give what you can't get, right? You can't get
Yeah.
what you don't have.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. The capabilities to receive love. The
yeah,
capability to receive love.
yeah,
Just imagine, this is let's go a little bit further. Sometimes you think about it. If you've been through your life and you go through stuff in your life, and then once you go through these things in your life, you find you have to re-identify what love is. You have to restart. You have to rethink about how what love really has to happen in your life. And
yeah,
so when I sit there and think about when you self-sabotage, sometimes uh, we think that if this person looks great, then it's love. If this person looks like it should be, then it's love. If the person has a job like this, then it's love. Or if they drive in a certain car, then it's love. See, those things are if you're not, here it is, and this is the other part that God definitely put on my heart, is that we find ourselves trying to fulfill those voids in our hearts,
that's
and that's
it.
where we have that self sabotage. We trying to, matter of fact, let's even be go deeper. We trying to reenact the past relationship and areas that it did work and try to make it work in the new one. Mm. So if you trying to make it work in the new one, you self sabotaging instead of going on to the adventure and being able to speak and being able to say these are the things that will make the relationship or situations better. That's good right there. I'm already getting happy. I'm about to run. So,
Well, don't run
so,
because you're driving. So yeah.
so,
Oh, go ahead. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that there is so much freedom in love,
That's good.
and there's bondage in fear.
Wow. Wow.
However, sometimes it's difficult to recognize love because if you never experienced it, then you don't know what that looks like.
Wow.
And so, even if
Mm.
someone is trying to help you experience that, if
Wow.
you're emotionally unavailable,
Wow.
you can misconstrue what that individual is trying to do with you.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. So you find yourself emotionally unavailable by cutting off the circulations of growth in your relationship.
Yes. You strangle the growth.
You strangle the growth. You
Yeah.
you strangle the growth. And then when you get opinions on the outside of how it should work too, can sabotage and strangle the growth of the relationship. Wow.
Yeah.
That's heavy. That's heavy. That's
Yeah.
heavy. So
It,
so I guess the question for us, L, like, you know, what should we do as people that's dealing with emotional unavailability, not being able to function? See, because some people function, and this just hit me in my heart. Some people function differently because this is the way they were raised. They say this is the way you have to be. But I always tell people you ain't what you have. You don't have to be what you they were or where you was because you're walking into a new place in your life. And if you walk into your new place in your life, you can't not be the same person. You can't
right.
stay in the same place. You can't try to do reenactments of things that happened in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Emotional unavailability.
yeah.
I,
And I know like you asked the question, what can people do who are dealing with this? And I know for a fact a lot of people are dealing with this. However, they don't know it. They just say things like, "Oh, I need to heal. I need to heal from my past
Right.
trauma or whatever," but they don't really
Right.
ever pinpoint it back to
Right.
not being available emotionally. And we're going to also talk about the effects of trying to move on and dating while you're emotionally unavailable, which is not good for anyone involved.
Right.
Um, but you definitely have to stop and do self-reflection. And I always talk about self-reflection,
That's good.
because you have to
Right.
stop and see what is really going on there, and then look at your coping mechanisms that keep you from actually dealing with the fact that you are not able to receive or give love properly. So by coping
Right.
mechanisms, that could be being busy all of the time, right? Like making sure your schedule is constantly packed, or jumping from relationship to relationship. These things are just pacifiers that are kind of soothing you for the moment, but not actually solving the issue. And so then you
Right.
begin to see yourself trying to get into a relationship with someone else, and you have not dealt with that emotional unavailability. And it's like
Wow.
a war
Wow.
zone. It's a war zone. And what I've
Right.
noticed is a lot of times people figure it out too late. And by that, I mean they'll get into a relationship with someone else who is available
Right.
emotionally, and they will wear that other person out. They'll be feeling
Yeah.
insignificant and
Mhm.
unfulfilled in that relationship because they have something there and they can really love that individual, but they're not getting that deep connection that they desire, that intimacy from the other person. And so that can cause
Right.
them to feel unappreciated, in that relationship. And so eventually the person who is available becomes tired, and then they try to leave. And that's when the emotional unavailable person realizes they have like a wake up call that says, you know what, I think I do want to try to love this person now. I think I should do some things different. But by that time, the other individual is already done with them and ready to go. And so then they say things like, well, I tried to work on the relationship. I was
Yeah.
fighting for it and they didn't want it. Like, well, what happened before that? Because people don't go to sleep in love and then wake up not in love anymore. There's some things that happens over time that
That's so
changes
good.
someone's heart
Teach that.
towards you. Yeah,
Teach
yeah.
that. And that's the thing is that I think when people go through, I would say you had your battles before you went into another relationship. You already
Hmm.
had your battles, and you're making yourself emotionally unavailable. What happens when people go into a relationship and then they make themselves emotional unavailable? They try to make other things. They build relationships outside of the relationships. So in other words, you giving all your emotions to something else. So when you have what you have, you're not giving your whole 100% to the thing that you have said you were dedicated to. So what happens in that situation where you're giving all your emotions to something else? Am I still there? Can y'all hear
Up,
me?
you breaking out.
So
You breaking out.
you make yourself emotionally available for everything. Can y'all can y'all hear me? Oh, okay. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get better. It's about to be better in a few seconds here. So um, when you go through all these certain, you have all these web of things that you deal with that affects you emotionally, that you will make yourself make yourself available to other things. So when you're making yourself available to other things, that's why you become unavailable to everything else, to the main things that's more important to you. So now, since you made other things more available, now you find yourself trying to you want now you're trying to find yourself to make the thing that you should make available right. Oh my
Right.
gosh, I'm about to start preaching.
Well, go ahead then.
I'm about
uh,
to start preaching. This this
yeah.
this signal should be better for y'all now. Can y'all hear me really well?
Yes. And so I'm going
All
to just
right,
try to
there we go.
reiterate what you just said because it was really choppy for a second.
Okay, so let me re-emphasize on this. All right. So y'all should be able to see me well. I'm here, y'all. I'm here. I done made it to my destination. Look here, good people. Y'all hear me?
Yeah,
So what happens is we find ourselves in life. We pick and choose what we should be emotionally attached to. Oh my gosh. So since we pick and choose what we emotionally attached to, that we spend more time with other things instead of spending time with you, how should I say, that you should be dedicated to. So
yeah, that
now the
requires commitment. Yes,
there you go. Now the commitment part, you're trying to make excuses about what I should be committed to, but you'll be emotionally available for other people. So
right.
now you're trying to pull yourself out of something that you committed to, but never realize that you're saying it clearly. This is why people have hard time fixing things, because they start, it's kind of like this. When you're in love with somebody, nothing can get in the way of it, right? You
Hmm.
love them. Oh, it's like when you first meet, spark plugs. It's just everywhere. It's just the everything is just in love, right? You just in love. You Nothing can stop you. Look, nothing can stop you. Nothing can get in the way. You can say whatever you want to say, and God, listen, and God be the glory. It's gonna stay together. But it's
Yeah,
something about when you start disconnecting things. Now you become emotionally unavailable. I don't want to say what I want to say. Now I'm looking at all the things that are negative. I'm not looking at the things that are positive. And if you and those who have dealt with a narcissistic person, you find yourself that you can never be one step ahead. You're trying to chase the situation around to try to fix it. And so I find myself, I'm a fixer. Okay, I like fixing stuff. I don't
hmm,
want to. Look. If I jacked up, I want to fix it. If people give you time to be emotionally available, then you can fix things. You can fix things. If Here it is. If Jesus can love us with our broken self, hear
yeah,
me, unconditionally, and still fix it, and we're like, we just all he said, tell God is telling us to fix it with fix us so we can be close to Him. Now that's the thing about it. We have to be able to be emotionally available, but we find ourselves being emotionally unavailable. What is triggering you to make you emotionally unavailable? I have my little note here, and
yeah.
I
But
have my little
I,
note here.
yeah,
I
and
want
I
to
just
read
want
this.
to insert this while you're right there talking about the triggers of being emotionally unavailable,
Mm-hmm.
because, like I said, there are different forms of it, and some of them are temporary.
Mm-hmm.
So, you do have to address that where a person may be temporarily unavailable because maybe they have some stress things that's going on or
Right.
some major life
Right.
changes. And at that time, if they are in a relationship, then the other person has to have patience with them and be able to
Mm-hmm.
draw them back out
Mm-hmm.
and into them, back into
Right.
themselves.
Right.
So that's one situation where it is temporary, because they experience some stressful situation,
I
and then
like
once
that.
it's resolved, then they should
Temporary.
go back to normal. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. Because you have those temporary moments. You
yep, he froze.
I today.
Dr. JD,
Yep.
you
Wait. I'm back.
frozen.
I'm back.
You frozen.
I'm frozen. Oh.
Yeah, you going out. You going in and out again. Um, yeah, but just to kind of address what he was talking about, the emotional
Can y'all hear me?
unavailability. Yeah, I can hear you, but you're frozen still. But just to talk about the emotional unavailability and what he meant by reaching out to other
Sorry.
things and having availability to other things besides what you're supposed to be committed to. A lot of times you see that with people who are serial cheaters, per se, is because they have not invested enough into the relationship that they're actually in, that it makes it easy for them to make themselves available for other persons who are outside of that relationship. And so that goes hand in hand with what I was saying about people who tend to be overly busy or bounce from one relationship to the other, which we would call rebounding, right? So when you see people doing those kind of things, it's usually because there's something deeper going on that they're not dealing with, and they're seeking a level of intimacy from the things that they're trying to attach themselves to, because they're not able to make those connections with the persons who are in their life. And so that can be relationships or with your family members or your friends. So emotional unavailability doesn't just show up in your personal romantic relationships. It can also show up in other areas of your life. And usually if it is showing up in one area, it is also showing up in other areas. And I just want to talk about too, selective emotional unavailability, because that's also a thing. And that's when you choose not to be emotional available to someone, and that's perfectly okay if you're not in a relationship with them, right? So if it's someone who is trying to get your attention or has found interest in you, and you don't want that bond with them, then you can select to be emotionally unavailable to that person. You might say, well, I just want to be friends, or you might say things like that. So we have to kind of look at the different signs too, as well, about emotional unavailability, because we are now entering into what I would call cuffing season. And so I don't want anyone to be a cuffing casualty. Okay. So we're trying to save you here to keep you away from emotionally unavailable people. And also, if you are already in a relationship with someone who is emotionally unavailable, maybe some things that you could do to try to bring that person out of that. Dr. JD is back with us, so we're going to bring
Excuse me,
screen.
y'all forgive me. The signal was bad. I'm back in business. So you were talking about something, and I don't mean to take over the show, I promise.
Go ahead, you
So
got it.
all right, so there was an area where you said temporary. I had
Mhm.
posted it the other day. I said, don't let your temporary situation convince you of your future.
Hmm.
Don't let your temporary situations in your life convince you of your future. That convince you of that your temporary circumstances, your temporary life convince you that you don't have a future. So in other words, we take our temporary situations and say this is our future, instead of saying I can fix my problems and my future is still bright. And I
Right.
can fix my problems and I can still do great things. So, being that said, we just taking this time, like when you're emotional unavailable, y'all, thank y'all so much for being patient with me. I finally made it to a location where I'm getting good Wi-Fi, and y'all, hope y'all can see my face.
We can see
So
you.
so one of the things is like very important, that you have to start really looking deep within yourself. There was a scripture, I'm going to read this to you because I had to pull it up real quick. Hopefully I pulled it up, and I want to read this to you because I think this is very good for any and every person. And I'm gonna read this to y'all, and then your emotional. We talking about emotional unavailability. Um, and so, I'm getting there, y'all. I promise. All
Okay.
right. So it says here that a person without self control is like a city with broken down walls.
Yeah.
A person without self control is like a city with broken down walls. What is your life like? The self control, the emotion that you are dealing with on your daily basis that is affecting you from speaking, matter of fact, from speaking out truths and now just speaking out just to respond. Ooh, that's good. So you're speaking the truth of how you develop yourself to fix certain things. Because if I'm emotional unavailable, I'm not allowing you to be in, I'm allowing you to come in. If I'm emotional unavailable, I'm not allowing you to speak wholeheartedly of how, I what how you should really feel. This is, you say, this is how I feel, all right, and this is how you feel. But how do you fix that? You fix that because you want to fix it.
Yeah.
Because it's a thing that what we typically do, we can make ourselves emotionally available for people, everybody else. We can, it's like this, you know everybody can say, we'll say, Sister L, everybody can say you're a great person, right? You are an amazing person. You do great things. You have help out in the community. You what you do, right? So and you help people, you help families, you do all those certain things. But it's something about when you dealing with someone on a daily basis and you make yourself how should I say emotional unavailable to the main person that you're dealing with, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the topics that like just really just pushing on that. Now, since you're dealing with that person on an emotional level, should be a greater emotional level, right?
Right.
Why isn't it not the forefront of your situations? And I know a lot of people probably trying to figure out, why is that? It's important to have to
Well,
understand that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, and I was going to say, it really has a lot to do with the foundation of that relationship and
Right.
how it started.
Mm.
Usually, when someone makes an investment
Yeah.
into something, they're
Mm.
more likely to try to save it, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
endangering them. They'll still, or it's an
Save it.
inconvenience. They'll still be trying to save it because they made an investment.
Right. That's
But when you
beautiful.
enter into a relationship with someone who already was showing you signs of emotional unavailability,
Mm-hmm.
they more than likely have not made any investments. It's just the other person who has done that. And so they've just been along for the ride. And so then when you
My
begin to
God.
get shaky and it's one person that's fighting to keep it going, and they're like, well, the other person is not fighting. It's because they have not made an investment. So that's why they can go and start looking for other sources to give them
Mm.
that gratification and that level of intimacy that they're looking for,
You
because
better teach, girl.
they really are looking for intimacy and they're looking for that love. They just don't know how to get it. They don't know how to get it to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to receive it in. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. And they don't know how to receive it. And if you find yourself out here searching for things and trying to fulfill voids, and it's crazy because you could be emotionally unavailable because of what daddy and them did or what
Yes.
mama and them did.
Absolutely.
Well, so and so treated so and so like this in my family, or the case may be, you become emotionally unavailable because this is the way we function. Mama never said nothing when daddy was saying something.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I
it
and
don't
I
matter how he treated her. Or mama said something to daddy, and it took away his manhood. You know,
mm,
emotionally unavailable.
Yeah, and I think too that's why it's important to do the work yourself, like to do your own self work and to try to expand your own horizons and become
Right.
well rounded and get
Right.
around other people who have different experiences. Because, like they say, if you knew better, you would do better,
That's
right?
good. That's good.
And so, a lot of times, you don't know that you need to do better because everyone you see around you
Right.
is doing the same exact thing.
Right.
And so that's a lot of times you see that with families who have toxic traits. They
Yeah.
don't know. And so you'll have like someone who's dating and say they bring their person home to meet their family, and
Yeah.
that person is looking at their family like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And the family's just getting on and they just it's normal to them, but someone else looking from the outside looking in and saying, like, man, I can see the brokenness. I can see the,
Right.
all of the bad things that are happening
Mm-hmm.
here. And it's the same way when it deals with things like this, as far as emotional unavailability. You don't know that you're unavailable because maybe your mama and your daddy was sometime loving you, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe they made you feel like loving you was an inconvenience, or maybe you were just tolerated
Right.
because you existed. So we
Right.
just fed you and we
Right.
just, we clothed you because,
Right.
you tell your kids that like the only responsibility I have is to clothe you and to feed you. And no,
Right.
but that's not
Look, that's
true.
it.
That's not true. You have responsibility to love on those
Right.
children so that when they grow up, they can be healthy adults and have healthier relationships.
Yes.
And if the foundation is not right, they just pass it on. And it
Yes.
becomes this bad generational curse and cycle that keeps going. And then you look up and you say, well, why can't any of these people have sustaining relationships? Why is there so much divorce? We'll say,
Right.
oh, that's a generational curse. Well, let's look a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
What are we passing on in
Mm.
reference to how we love one another first
Mm.
before we could invite somebody else into that? You
Exactly.
know, yeah,
So, you know, I believe as well as those are and that's amazing because what are you passing on? You know, matter of fact, this is what I would say. Why don't you wake up?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we find ourselves being in this time capsule, per se, of being in the same situation over and over again of an emotional unavailability? I wrote down one of the words drained. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can become drained. Matter of fact, you can become drained because you soul searching. I mean, excuse me, you should be searching nobody's soul anyway. But anyway, you searching, right, for fulfillment because we'll say, for instance, that, and you become emotional unavailable because you're taking whatever you have and you placing it somewhere,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
say for instance, you're in a relationship, right? And you're in that relationship and they're trying to follow you around, so they're getting drained.
Yeah.
Emotional
Yeah.
unavailability.
Right.
Um, and another point is describing really how you feel. Like people, this is the thing. We say, for instance, people, we describe how we feel, but then we want to give the just pieces instead of the whole scope.
Yeah.
Being like, well, this is how I feel, but I really feel this way. So you're making yourself, thank you, this is good. You're making yourself available only in pieces, but
Yeah.
you're making yourself
Pieces of you.
unavailable in other pieces. So you making yourself available in pieces. Like every time you'll give pieces, and then you'll sit on that you just say, well, that's good enough. Instead of
Yes.
making yourself completely available, you'll make parts of you unavailable. And so, and I know there's a scripture that says, guard your heart. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So guarding your heart would mean that this is what I would say. Because you can't really guard your heart if you in something. If you
Right.
in it already, the heart can't be guarded. Either
Right.
it's gonna get worse or it's gonna get better. Y'all get that? Your heart is already on the plate. Okay?
Yes.
You can't take your heart off unless you leave the situation. So your heart is on the plate. Either you're gonna become better or you can become worse. The guard your heart is saying, I'm not gonna go into that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I see it before I get into it. There's a scripture, and I just spoke about this last night. I gotta get my preaching, so y'all can write this down, put it in your notes. There's a scripture that is called, it's Psalms 51. David was speaking. I spoke about this last night. Psalms 51 and 3. And it says, and I say this because our emotions of how we get into our situations or in our sins or in our problems or whatever the case may be. It says, I knew my transgressions before I got there. I knew my problems before I got there. That means whatever I'm thinking, here it is. This is so good. I want y'all to catch this. Whatever I'm thinking, I'm already thinking about the problem before it got there.
Mm-hmm.
If I go out there and act a fool, I'm already thinking I'm going to act a fool before I get there. You just don't walk and act a fool.
Right.
It's just real.
It was premeditated.
It's premeditated every single time.
Yeah.
If you gonna talk before words come out your mouth, it's already premeditated. So if you're walking in violence in your voice and your thinking, then you stabbing and shooting and kicking people with your voice. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because you already pre-thinking, well, I'm just gonna say something negative in order for me to function. So,
Yeah.
but if I'm walking in my positivity, right? I knew before I did it. So I gotta read this because this is so wonderful. I love this scripture because I've said on it for a while, y'all. Y'all gotta hear me. How many people we got on here, y'all?
I don't even know.
Okay, so because I'm gonna teach y'all something real quick. It just makes me happy when I read it. Okay, so it says, I know my transgressions and my sin always before me. I know it before me. It's going to be there regardless. If I'm emotionally unavailable, I know it before I get there.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but the thing, okay, so let's make this practical because we've been talking about a lot of the root causes of it, right? Which is usually trauma. It's some
Mm-hmm.
form of trauma. And that's even if you don't recognize it as trauma, it was still trauma to you. And it caused you to kind of like a flower might wither. It kind of causes you to just shut down.
Right.
But if we can put that in a practical way, like what are some ways that someone else could recognize that their partner may be emotionally unavailable?
Mm-hmm.
And then also what can they do to try to
Wow.
help them or if they should help them, right?
Wow.
Because it depends on the situation.
Right. Right. So you have a partner and that person loves you. You work together to make it work.
Yeah.
What does it look like for you to be in a warfare with somebody that loves you? What happens is becomes love and then it becomes a battle.
Mm-hmm.
What do you choose? What are you going to choose? You're going to either choose the love or you're going to choose the battle. I speak to this about people that are couples. You know, I speak about this all the time when couples when they get married. For some reason, I end up talking to them like briefly before they get married. That you have to understand that when you are growing together as a unit, the blessing starts. But once you, this is what one thing. If you are already dealing with the world, okay, whoever can hear me because I see comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you are already dealing with the world. What does it look like your partner stabbing you and they stabbing you too? How can I should the thing is I have to be emotional available with my partner, right? I have to be able to communicate. I have to be able to talk. I have to be able to do it because honestly, at home you have a counselor in God, but you have a counseling session when you sit on the front porch and drinking some tea with your partner.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's where you dump your heavy load. You know, you dump about how your day at work goes, how situations are. You come up with plans and you do things with the person that you're with. And so, but if the elevation is being suffocated, how do you grow? And that's why I believe past situations and situations that may even went on in your situation, your relationships, you have to ask what is more important. Is the this is just being real. Is the world more important, the outside things more important, or the growth of what you have in that relationship?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, another way that you will know that you have a partner who is unavailable is that they'll always be what some call push pull. And
That's
I've heard
good.
people say, talking about, this individual gives you mixed signals. That can
Mm,
still happen within a relationship.
right.
Now, we were talking about it last week on the What Women Want segment, and I just thought it was really interesting that the other two women on the panel was saying how they were attracted to that. And I
Right.
said that I was kind of attracted to it too, but I felt like it was a problem because once you experience love, you know what love feels like. And so to have somebody to give you love and then pull it back, for
Back
whatever
and forth.
reason, right, and it may be a tactic of manipulation because they're afraid of losing you, so they try to do that to try to keep you entangled.
Mm-hmm.
But when if you are experiencing that push pull where you're not sure and you're googling stuff trying to figure out, well, does this person love me? If you have to ask those kind of
Right. You
questions,
have
you
to
may
ask
be
those questions, right?
yeah, you may
Right.
be dealing with someone who is emotionally unavailable. And another thing is that you'll be constantly in pursuit of this individual, but never ever grabbing them. So they'll be present, but they
Wow.
won't be available.
That's
And so,
wow. They'll
yeah,
be present, but they're unavailable. They
yeah,
can be
but they're
all in your
unavailable.
face, but they never really being available. Wow.
Right.
Heavy.
And a lot of times too, within marriages, you'll hear like they'll tell you like, oh, it takes time to become one. They'll tell you things like that, but that's not true because if
Mm-hmm.
both people are emotionally available when they come together, they just kind of stick like glue, right? If they're
Mm-hmm.
both healthy individuals. So if you're not seeing that oneness forming or beginning to form within your relationship, you may be dealing with someone who is emotionally unavailable, and they'll be showing you that because they won't be giving 100% of themselves to the relationship, and you'll feel that. You'll feel
Yeah.
that there is
Wow.
something lacking there. Even
Wow.
if you can't put your finger on it to
Mm-hmm.
say, well, you're not expressing yourself,
Yeah.
or you're not sharing everything with me.
Yeah.
even if you can't figure it out, you'll
Yeah.
know within yourself, like, we're not connecting the way that we should. And that
Right.
will give you an idea of whether that person, other person, is emotionally available or
Mm-hmm.
not.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wow. That's deep. That's
yeah,
deep. Because you're sitting there doing a push pull situation, and you're dealing with someone's emotions back and forth, and you're sitting there giving them your all, but they're draining you
yeah,
because you're giving your all, but they're pushing and pulling. They're making themselves available, and that's what we were talking about a little earlier too. Like, you giving part of yourself,
yeah,
and you giving part of yourself because you're making yourself emotionally unavailable. You make not making yourself available to give your all, and
yeah.
that's wow.
Yeah, and it can be really confusing within a relationship. And I think too, that's why a lot of people deal with or stay so long in relationships with people who are not emotionally available, because there are some parts of them that they do have access to, and so
Mm-hmm.
they see the good things, they see it,
Mm-hmm.
but then they'll have those laps,
That's
like we
good.
talked about. They'll have those laps
Wow.
where it's like, man, I love them, but it's not right. Something is not right with this connection.
Come on, Dr. L.
Look,
Wow.
here.
Come on, Dr. L. Yeah,
Yeah,
so exactly. You're sitting there, trying to fix the problem, and you're holding on to whatever you're loving about it, because you might get situations where, oh, I love you.
yeah.
Oh, okay, but I'm doing this.
But look, what you're really holding on to is the potential that one day this person will show up all the way.
Wake up. They'll wake up
That's
one
what
day.
you're holding on to.
Yeah.
Because right now you only have, well, a good part of, we'll say,
Yeah.
75% maybe of
70,
this
not
person.
look,
And you're
20%,
waiting
right?
for this other 25% of this person to show up. And so that's why you stay in those situations,
Yeah.
And then you also have to look at it like this, because there are some people who are emotionally unavailable, and they will tell you that when you
Mm.
first meet them, and you have to believe them when they tell you. So
Mm-hmm.
if you meet someone and they say, well, I'm not looking to be in a relationship right now, I only want friends,
Wow.
you can't think within your own mind that, oh, I
Mm.
can love them into
Yeah.
connecting with me. I can
Yeah.
love them
I
into
can
being
love them into.
available.
Yeah, I can love them to love me
That's right.
properly, fully,
Right.
and then this just hit me. Some people think some people ideal of love is different. You
Yes.
know,
Hmm.
let's be real. Some people think love is if I grab your shoulder real good and tell you I love you. I love you.
Right.
If I cuss at you real good,
Right. That's just me. I love you.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And some people, like, they like to be in caring. They want the caring part of you. And
Yes.
so what it is, and this is the thing, emotions can be everywhere,
Hmm.
right? You wake up one morning and you decided, today I want to cut my hair off.
Hmm.
Sometimes I do, but I like my little hair. Okay. But the thing is that it's just you're dealing with, if it's so much that you're dealing with somebody that's emotionally unavailable, they they either they're gonna cut you off or they just gonna give in. But if it's taking you 10 years and you still emotionally unavailable, you're gonna start, it's gonna become normal.
Mm.
You're gonna know the person,
Yeah.
but they're not really trying to give you their 100%.
Right. And
And
what? I've seen that in relationships, and it's kind of like, they're like, well, I'm afraid to start over, or we've been
right.
together so long, and they don't even realize that they're functioning in dysfunction with those
Ooh, that's heavy.
relationships.
Functioning
Yeah.
in dysfunction.
And they're not really happy, but it's convenient, and so they
Mm-hmm.
kind of just hang around each other, like, well, it's been a long time, so we just gonna hang in there. But they never really get to experience that love. And the terrible thing about it is if they have children together,
Right.
they pass that on to their kids, and they
Wow.
get to see them function in dysfunction, and it just
Right.
keeps going. And that's how that pattern
Function.
is, because no one is able
Mm-hmm.
to hold the other person accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of came to me too as I was on my way to the studio,
Yeah.
is that you can only hold a person accountable as much as they're willing to hold themselves.
Right.
So even if you bring it to this person's attention that, hey, I think that you are emotionally unavailable,
Right.
if they're not willing to make those changes or to say, okay, you know what, you may be right. I need to examine what I have going on. There's nothing you can do with that individual because they're only going to be as accountable to you as they can be to themselves when it comes to
Wow.
situations like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're
I
in
hear you.
a relationship with someone who is emotionally unavailable, it's really a matter where it's up to you because at some point you may get tired and then you may just give in. Like we were just talking about people who stay
Right.
on forever and are never happy, but they're just there because it's convenient,
It's
you know?
convenient. You're
Yeah,
dealing with conveniency.
right.
You
But
know.
you have to look at what your own standard is
Or
and
you looking at the
be
potential.
okay. Right. You still looking at the potential of what this
Hmm.
could be. And the reality is that it may never be anything beyond that if the person doesn't want help or doesn't want to change. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
And I'm reading unavailable, just synonyms. I want to say this. It says non-existent,
hmm,
unavailable. You're non-existent, right? Unavailable, taken. You're taken by something else.
something else.
Unaccessible. We can't only can access parts of you unaccessible or you
Hmm.
out. So when you make yourself unavailable, people, you make yourself unavailable not only if definitely if you in a relationship, you making yourself unavailable for the fulfillment of that relationship.
Wow.
You making yourself unavailable for going to the next level in your relationship. You're making yourself unavailable. You're not going to ever feel complete if you make yourself unavailable. You are
Yeah,
never. You can get to the aisles of the wedding. You can say I do, but you could be even in a relationship and married and still be unavailable
absolutely.
because we don't find ourselves being uh, more focused on other things. And I mean, you consume yourself, then you become miserable
Hmm.
because you done made yourself so unavailable that it's no tying together. The tying has to take place when you're dealing with availability. So
Yeah.
non-existent, taken, unaccessible. But this is the other part that got me. It says married. You could be married to something else.
Hmm. They
You
keep
can
you
marry to many
available.
things. Some people are married to their business.
Yeah.
And if we and then the other thing is that there's this word that's been kicking for the last 3 weeks, and I know I'm gonna preach about this. It's idolizing.
Right.
You can idolize a thing so much that you can be married to it, and you make yourself unavailable.
Yeah.
You can be idolized to things, and you can make yourself unavailable.
Yeah. Well, Dr. JD, we are out of time officially. So I don't know, we might need to do a part two or expound some more,
No,
maybe
you
in
go ahead.
depth.
We gonna do it. We can go in the area. I'm ready. I'm ready. I owe you because I was sitting there shaking, the car was shaking, I'm driving, trying to y'all forgive me, please. I was it's my time, work and this COVID stuff. I had to switch some things around. So, but
Yeah.
I am so grateful to be on here and connecting with y'all. Miss L, I thank you. I thank you for reaching out to me to be a part of your show, and I appreciate it. This is a blessing. It's able to help so many people, and y'all in Baltimore. So I'm in Baltimore, y'all. I'm hanging out with people in Baltimore. So Maryland, right?
Dr.
So
JD, you want to tell them where they can find you really quick? Because we're officially out of time.
oh, we got time. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can find me at inspiregenerations.org. Well, that's the website. And then also, my name is Javaski, Javaski. But you can find me at Dr. JD. You can find me. It, Look, I'm here to help the people. I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for this moment. It's a great feeling, just a great feeling to understand you getting to learn topics and things like that. You're
Yeah.
a very successful young woman, and I appreciate you for allowing me over here and it's going to continue to expand. I can see it. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone, that is it for our show tonight. I just want to say thank you for our viewers and listeners. Chime in with us next week, 7 p.m. on Wednesday. We do this. We love what we do. Everybody, be blessed. Good night.
Good night. Thank y'all.